Wow, that was a great little introduction. Thank you, Stephen. Thank you for clapping before you've even heard anything. That's very presumptuous, but I I appreciate it. So I am Sarah, and I'm going to give you a little bit of background before we get started, just so you know who I am, what I'm going to deliver to you today in the next couple of hours, and so you can basically be prepared for what's coming. It's going to be a bit of drinking from a fire hose today. There is so much that I actually don't even know if we'll have time to get through what I've planned. And so I've called this today Creating a Content Calendar, because that's really the main part of this first bit that we're going to do. But I want to give some context around content marketing before we start. And then if we have time at the end of this session, we'll talk a little bit about video and how to go about getting started with that. If that's something that you're not familiar with yet, you don't know how to get started on, you don't know how to do yourself. Because I imagine that we have businesses from all sizes here. So some of you are going to be fully bootstrapping, and some of you are in a position where you can hire someone to do it for you, and that's fine. Maybe you can just rest easy and give your brain a little bit of a break. But everything that I'm giving to you, I've purposed to be actionable, and even if, you know, say you're going to hire a videographer later on or something, there's still going to be content in there that's going to be helpful for you in that process. Might even help you understand who to hire when you go to do that. So I'm so excited that this clicker works, because I didn't actually realize that it would, isn't technology just fancy? I didn't have to do anything and it works. So I am just going to give you a brief rundown of me. That's all my stuff, basically, because I didn't bring a single business card, because I'm just terrible at that kind of thing. And so my business is 11 Lights Media, and we are what I call a video-first social media agency, and we really try to get people to stop being boring in their business, basically, because that seems to be the state of play in marketing these days. And I mean, you have to stand out, you have to make people laugh or smile or do something other than scroll past your ads, scroll past your content. So we really strive to give people what they want, as in your audience, your customer, what they want from you, but also we like to make people happy as well. And I've just chosen some fun photos there, because that's giving you a little bit of an indication of who I am as a person. I want you to sit here and feel like you can't put your hand up, you can't engage, you can't talk to me, you can't ask questions. You don't even have to put your hand up, because we're not in primary school. You can yell stuff out. Yeah, that's me. I started about 3 years ago in 11 Lights Media. I've travelled all over the globe speaking about it. I've been to Social Media Marketing World, which is the biggest social media marketing conference on the planet at this point in time. I spoke about video marketing there last year. I've spoken in Spain, spoken here at a number of events. So I just give you that little bit of context so that you can trust me a little bit more, because I understand for 99% of this room, you've never seen my face before beyond the picture that was on your workbook or the flyer. And so I know it can be difficult to zone in and trust someone straight up. So that's a little bit about me. You can follow in any of those places if you want to take pictures and tag and all that kind of stuff. I encourage it, because I freaking love that stuff. It's so fun, and it's a way for me to get to know you better in this context, because we will get one-on-one time today. I've got that planned into the sessions to workshop different businesses. So get that ready. If something's really resonating with you and you would love me to workshop your business, get ready for that, because I have planned time in these sessions for that as well. Okay, so when we talk about content marketing, really, for me, there's three things that I think content marketing does, and really any marketing, and there's all little offshoots of this, but really most things fall under three categories. We're trying to either get brand awareness, so we're trying to get people to see who we are, know that we exist. We're going for authority, so maybe people know who exist, they know we exist, but now we're in a place where we want them to look at us as their trusted, insert job description here. So for me, I want people to think that I know what needs to be known about content marketing, and I also know how to achieve results in it. That's how I would establish authority, putting out content around that type of thing. And the last one, I interchange sales with lead gen, because for a lot of service-based businesses, they don't necessarily get straight up sales from their content, but it's a good tool for lead generation and bringing people into your funnel if you go down that line of thought. So when we're looking at content, we always have to have these goals in mind, because that's going to help you understand why you're putting out the piece of content that you're putting out and what you're doing it for. And so when we go to create it, we want a mixture of these things. And something that tends to happen, particularly with content, is people either do one of two things. There's people who go really hard down the sales track. They're like, sell, sell, sell. Everything's got a call to action. Everything's a push. Everything's like, I wonder if I can subliminally get this person to buy my stuff. And then the other train of thought is that that tends to happen is that we never have the call to action. We just put out valuable content all the time. We never actually ask for the sale. So what we try and do is bridge that gap. We try and and that's why these goals are important, right? Because if I want to put out something to get brand awareness, I'm not going to ask for the sale in that, because you're just learning about me, so you don't trust me yet, so why would I ask for the sale yet? And that's just giving you a little bit of context of how this content marketing thing works. And I know you guys probably already know a lot of this, is why I'm zooming through it a little bit. But just some stats, just for anyone who's not sure. Content marketing gets 3 times more leads than versus the dollar spent on paid search. So things like Google AdWords and that. And those of you who are heavy into ads, like Mossy here, I know he loves his ads. That is not a slight against paying for advertising and things like that. I don't want you to think that I'm anti-ads, because I'm totally not. But it's very interesting to see that content marketing is a little bit more of an organic approach. We're not pushing at people, we're actually pulling them in. And so it tends to have a more of a responsive result, right? Small business with blogs get 126% more lead growth than those without. So those of you who are still a small business, a really small business, I'm still quite a small business, blogging is where it's at for you. Because what that also does is if you can get people to your website and they start reading your content and it's of value, they hang out. And then they look for the next piece of content that's going to help them, and then the next one, and they come back to you. And so it makes sense that they would get more lead growth than those businesses without it. And actually, that's one of the hardest things I find with businesses, to convince them to have a blog on their website, purely because they're like, I sell locks. What am I going to blog about? But the reality is that the people that are looking for what you deliver, the problems that a lock would solve, that peripheral content around how to keep it functioning, how for it not to rust up, all those things. People are on your website for a reason. They want help. They want to know things. And you need to keep them there, and you get that retention, and that's what turns them into someone who subscribes to your newsletter. That is much better sound. I'm sorry, I was holding the microphone very badly just before that moment. So you keep them on your website, and then they eventually sign up to your newsletter, or like whatever you have there, the call to action that you have on the website, to develop relationship with them further. And the last point I have there, I've tried to make these pretty broad, and typically when you go to conferences and things like that, people use the same stats over and over and over again. And you're going to see that when we talk about YouTube later. I'm going to share a few of the same ones that I hear over and over and over again, but some new ones as well. So I've tried to go for some new ones so that you're not bored out of your brain with me. So SEO, content creation, is the most effective SEO technique. So if anyone who is investing or thinking that they want to invest in SEO, you need to be thinking about content creation and that content marketing piece, because if you work with a company that does SEO, typically they're going to either write for you or get you to write content around those keywords that you want to target, that you're trying to bring people in for. So for me, this is terribly broad and it would never happen because it's too competitive. But, social media marketing or video marketing, I would be wanting to write content or create content, video content even, around those particular keywords. Okay. The thing is that with our content marketing, we can actually achieve all of these things. We can achieve the brand awareness, we can achieve the authority, and we can achieve the sales. It's a long-term strategy, make no mistake. I'm not going to pretend that you're going to walk out of here, write a blog, and be a millionaire tomorrow. It's a long-term strategy that you need to be absolutely consistent with. And I'm terrible with slides, so you're always going to get a sneak peek at what's next. I've given this its own slide because I cannot stress consistency enough. And I come to you today as a hypocrite because I struggle with consistency for my own brand. It takes planning, it takes time, it takes putting in the work when you don't feel like putting in the work. And it takes time. One of the biggest issues with content is overwhelm, because we feel like we have to be everywhere and we're distributing it everywhere and we're seeing it all the time and we burn out on our own content. And it's really hard to come back to the computer and write. It's really hard to set up the camera and record again. It's really hard to say, hey, everyone, look, I've written something new. It's hard, make no mistake. And that's where planning really comes in handy. And I just want to show you something. I brought my own content calendars today that I use for my clients to show you that even I'm like pen and paper girl through and through, but I plan for everyone, because if I don't, I burn out on my own brand. And I have all these clients where if I didn't do this to think of fresh content all the time, to not have research, to not have put in a plan so that I can sit down and not use all of my decision-making brain power to research, but to have it sitting in front of me is so valuable. I cannot stress this enough. And that's why we're creating this today. So that's my way of saying this is exactly why we plan. All right. This is why we plan. So basically there's 4 different types of content that we can create. And I bring these up because I know in my space, again, it's very overwhelming. I see that, and I'm an all or nothing person. Anyone else like that in the room? Anyone else be like totally black and white, you're all in or you're all out? One other person, 2 other people. Come on, I don't even believe you. You guys are business owners. A lot of us are really extreme, and that's why we do what we do. We're big, we're extreme, that kind of thing as well. So there's 4 types of content: image, video, sound, and written. That's not news to you at all. But what I'm actually going to touch on a little bit later is what I typically do in order to create my content, and in a way that makes it a little bit less overwhelming. So what I encourage you to do... Okay, actually, before we go there, who's on social media? Okay, keep your hand up if you're on Facebook. Keep your hand up if you're on Facebook and another platform. Keep your hand up if you're on more than 2 platforms. Keep your hand up if you're on everything. Yeah, okay, good. I'm so glad. I'm so glad everyone put their hands down, because that's over. Unless you've got a team, that's overwhelm. So what we have to think about is the platforms that we're on. And then we have to think about the content that we need to create for that platform, and how to go about that, because the trap is to try and do it all, and to not think about our audience, to not think about where we're actually putting our content, and to also not actually think about where our strengths lie. So maybe the idea of video terrifies you. So looking at that, I would think, why not start a podcast? Or why not blog? Because for other people, grammar isn't our strong suit. Like, we either have to get a serious editor in, or we have to think about creating content in a completely different way. Is anyone familiar with Gary Vee? Okay, good. So part of the room. So Gary Vee is like an avid content creator. He's very known for it. He's pretty much pioneered the space of content creation, if I'm honest. And he's terrible with grammar, and he'll say that. Like, he pretty much failed school. He's got a big social media agency in New York City. It's about 200 million revenue, 900 employees. So he knows what he's doing. It's not the first business he's built. But he has a team that does all this written stuff. The point I'm trying to make is he's terrible at grammar, so he'd rather go on video. He'd rather go on a podcast. And that suits him. So you need to think about your personality. You need to think about your strengths. You need to think about what you might enjoy as well. Like, maybe you think, well, I don't know if I'd be great in front of a camera, but you want to try it. And I would encourage that, because when we feed our creative spirit, it does really good things for our business and our soul. If you start doing things that you actually want to do in business, because we're told all the time, you have to do the stuff you don't want to do. You have to do it unless you can afford to outsource it, right? And we do that, and we work hard. But that also kills our soul a little bit. So when we figure out things that we like to do, like maybe writing is really cathartic for you. Maybe hearing the sound of your own voice is actually not terrifying to you. Maybe being on video and making someone laugh, or making something fun, or even just giving your educational point of, like, educating someone is what I'm trying to say. When you're educating someone, that makes you feel really, really good. Go with that. Try not to overthink that process and be like, I need to do everything, or what's everyone else doing? Really go with your strength in this, and I really want to emphasize that, because we are going to talk about video in the next session, and I see it all the time. It sends people into overwhelm. They think they have to do it, but ultimately you don't. The world's going that way, but if your strength is somewhere else, capitalize on that first, and then give that job to someone else in your team. Or when you're ready, when you're more confident, do it then. I don't think anyone should be pushed into anything they don't want to do. In saying that, you'll see conflicting things from me on social media where I'm like, suck it up and just do it. So, it's each to their own. We're all adults. Okay, so now that we've talked about that, these are the things that we need to think about when we're going into content creation. Because we have what a friend of mine, Mark Schaefer, is very well known in the content creation space, social media space, and he coined a phrase called content shock, and pretty much means that there's just so much content out there that it's hard to cut through, it's hard to break through. There's very little that grabs our attention anymore. So we have to think about that. We have to think about who our audience is, who your avatar is. You have to think about what they're looking for from you. So when I think about going into content, I'm going to take you through the research process. So that's why I put this last. So we're going to do that together. But I want you to think about attention. Depending on the platform you're on, you're given certain amounts of time. So Facebook is pretty much endless in terms of how long you can broadcast for, or how long your piece of content can be. But I want you to think about, what is your end user looking for, and how can you grab their attention? And I want you to think about it bigger than theatrics on the camera. I'm talking like detail. Like, it's interesting. I work with a lot of male dominated industries and companies, and it's so funny because there's always a tension when we start working together, because typically men don't use emojis on social media as a business. That's the trend I find. I'm not saying you don't use it, but that's the trend that I found. And I remember I started working with this one company, and it's run by two men. And my very first post, I slaved over that post because it was my first post, and I always feel the most pressure with the first post. And I put it on Facebook, and I used, I think, 3 emojis. throughout, and it was a long piece of written word. And I went back to just check on the progress to see how it was going, and it was gone. And I was like, oh, maybe I stuffed up. Maybe Facebook glitched. And I messaged one of the owners and I said to him, oh, I promise you I posted it. It's just gone. And then I got a text message that was not meant for me. It was meant for the other owner, saying, it's unprofessional, she used too many emojis. And really just like, I felt terrible. Like, I'm not dogging on them. They're still my clients and I love them to death. But I was just like, I realised that there was a big gap in, one, in them trusting me versus like getting to that place where they just had confidence that I'm either testing something or I just know what I'm doing, and to just trust the process. But also just, I realised that it's a very male thing. Like, you guys don't use emojis a lot. And I'll add to that, even females in professional businesses typically don't, because we think that it's unprofessional. However, when we're on social media, we really have to remember that social aspect of social media. And to add to that, we have to think about how to grab attention. And it's very interesting how an emoji can grab attention if you use the right one. Where you place it in terms of how it's seen, because when you write anything on Facebook particularly, you get about 1.5 sentences before it's like ... and you have to click to see more. So depending on how you frame up your caption, it's just really interesting, and I would encourage you, especially those of you in professional services, especially anyone whose business is like really serious business. I would encourage you to try emojis over a period of time. You can't do it once because it's not testing. I don't know what that is, but it's not testing. So do it over a week, do it over a month. You don't have to do it in every post. Do it twice a week for a month. And I promise you that those particular posts will get more attention than any of the others. Even if nobody clicks a reaction, clicks like or love or laughs or anything, go into your insights on Facebook and go to the column that says engagements, because that actually shows who clicks on that see more bit. Even though they don't react, that bit is actually far more indicative of how engaging the content is than the actual reactions you get on the post. I mean, if something gets 1,000 shares, it's done well. But for those of you who have crickets on your Facebook page and you're really struggling and you don't know what content is working because your audience isn't in a place yet where they trust you enough to sort of be vocal about their response, go into the insights and then go to the engagement column. And if that little red bar says you got 21 clicks and you got no engagement, do more of that content, because it says that people were interested. And it could just be the formatting, but I guarantee you, because you only get such a small amount of space, it's probably the content. So that's just a little trick of the trade for you. The second thing is enjoyment, and that's basically entertainment, happiness, a smile, something silly. I have a client who has a composting business, and I share facts in a text-based form, sometimes on Facebook, and I'll just put the little poo emoji at the end because it makes people smile. It makes them it's compost. It's got poo in it, so it does make sense in that context. But it's just about garnering an emotional response at some level. It doesn't have to be a hearty laugh. It doesn't have to be tears of sorrow. It can just be that thing that they smirk, because that's actually building trust. Like, if I spoke with you, if I had a one-on-one conversation with you and you said something that resonated with me, or kind of I was like, oh, she's a bit sassy, but I didn't guffaw, I was just like, huh. That actually is building my trust with you, because I'm like, I kind of like this girl. She gets me. We're on the same plane, or that kind of thing. Everything you do The idea behind it is to build trust because humans buy from humans. Humans do not buy from logos. Humans do not buy from brands, although I'm a big believer in branding. We buy from humans, and that is why it's so important that everything we do is building trust and that we're hitting one of these points, because if we're not making people feel something, if we're not giving them insight, if we're not educating them, if we're not giving them a reason to trust us, they will never actually buy from us. So the other thing I want you to think about is past successes. Where have you found success in your business? Where have you found success with something that you've posted? Where have you found success with, maybe you get this kind of opportunity where you get to speak. Maybe you have opportunity to be emailing people. Where has the response and the resonation been where people have come back to you with engagement of some description? So we have to not limit our thinking just to social media, but it's a good place to start. But I understand for some people, like, they're not getting that response of social media. So we have to think broader. What makes people engage with you? What makes them laugh? What makes them what made them buy off you? You know what I mean? So when we think about our past success, that can then inform our future decision-making process, our future posts, our future pictures, our future videos, our future content. Research your industry. So have a look at your quote-unquote competition. Whatever you believe about competition is totally up to you, but look at them. Don't get obsessed. Do not dwell. If you can get someone else in your business to do it for you, it's even better, because then you don't get yucky feelings if they really are hardcore competition and they're dirty, or like you just don't like them, you know them and they're not a nice person. But look at your competitors, and I'm actually going to show you how to do this on YouTube. And if you're not going to do video, I still want you guys to tune in, because this process that I'm going to show you is, you can apply it to any type of content. And then the next thing I want you to think about when we go into content creation is obviously the research portion. Research is the most laborious part. For some of you, you'll love it, you'll geek out on it. And for others of you, you'll be like, I just want to do it. I just want to do the thing. But research is so important. I'm more inclined to just want to do the thing. But we have to research. Research can be one of the most powerful tools when we're trying to get traction on a new platform or on any platform. So we're going to go into that soon. I'm going to show you now this is a very loose interpretation of my content creation process, because Mossy knows some of my clients, and he'll look at this and go, you don't do that for that person. So I don't do it for everyone. I have to tailor content. But this is my loose process, and I like to start here. If you have no idea where to start with content, this is a really good place, and I'm going to walk you through it. So what I like to do, now I've been very specific. I've said video at the top. So this is my anchor piece of content, right? And I encourage you guys to write this down, to draw that diagram even, and don't fill it in yet, because it might be different for you. So create your anchor piece of content. Now, for some of you, that might be a blog. That might not be a video. For some of you, it actually might even be a report. So some of you, it might be a podcast. You get what I'm saying. And then out of that anchor piece of content, what we're trying to do is simplify the process for ourselves, eliminate overwhelm, and get multiple pieces of content that speak to the same message, right? So I'll make a video, and it might be about content creation, and then I'll go back and screenshot a funny screenshot, because I don't like to be too serious. So I'll be pulling a funny face or something like that. And I will grab a screenshot out of my video, or a number of them, right? Because I post on lots of different platforms. So I'll grab that, and maybe I'll grab a nugget, something that I said that was a super actionable tip. Maybe I think that it was profound, whatever floats your boat. Grab that, and that's one piece of content right there. The next thing I've got written down is long form written. So what you can do out of a video is either get it transcribed, Or what I do, I tend to post the video on my blog, and then under it, I actually write them separate. Because once I've done the video, because I'm better at speaking, I typically do the video and then I'll go back and write it more out of conversational type memory, just because I think that translates better. The other thing I like about doing the written afterwards is because if I didn't hit a point in detail, I feel like I can go back and do that in written. I do feel the pressure a little bit being on video of making sure I don't go on too many tangents, but I think tangents are important things, and we can do that in our own way. So for me, it's written. I tend to expand a little bit. So what you see is not the exact same as what you see written is not the exact same as what you see on the video. The next thing is a really great thing to do is, as we know, Facebook preferences live stream videos. So we can actually live stream on our Facebook page about the content that we've just created. So instead of going, hey guys, I just created this video, go check it out, we can position it like, do you really struggle with content marketing? Are you always looking for ideas? Do you find that you go to sit down and write and nothing comes? Or you have your best ideas when you're in the shower, but when you're in the shower, you're on your way to work, so you don't get to write down? Well, I thought I would create a video around this and give you guys unlimited content ideas, unlimited places to find content ideas. And I want you to go and watch it. And I want you to comment on it, the one idea that really stood out for you, because that's actually going to be the thing that works for you. If it stood out for you, it's going to be the thing that works for you. So why don't you head on over there? I'm going to pop the link to the YouTube in the comments. And then I want to see you over on that platform. Give me a comment. I reply to everyone, because that's a little tip of the trade too. Make sure you reply to everyone. And I'll see you over there. So basically that was just like off the cuff, but all I'm doing is I'm promoting another channel for one, which is good because it creates what we call circular virality, which is not important. All it just means is that you're sending people to all your places, which bridges that gap between trust and purchase. It just means it takes way less time for them to buy from you. The more they buy into you, the quicker that purchase will happen. And the other thing that you can do on live stream is obviously have discussion with people who jump on. If you have a small following, do not do Q&As and do not engage heavily with your audience. And I just say that because there are too many people that pull up their phone and they're like, hi guys, I'm just going to wait for 20 more people to jump on. So you can just watch me do nothing for the next 3 minutes. And it's the worst. And the other reason that I say the thing about Q&A is because typically when you have a really small audience, people are way too shy to speak up. They never ask. If you're trying to get a Q&A off live stream on Facebook, the time lag is too long. So you really need like a massive audience for a Q&A to work well, unless you've had people ask you questions before. And look, if you've got a Facebook group or you're in a Facebook group where they talk about your topic all the time, there's nothing stopping you going, oh, I saw this question the other day about how do I make content marketing when I'm traveling? And I want to address that for you now. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm coming in with the content that people are wanting to hear because you've heard them talk about it. 1 second, I'm bookmarking you. And then you can answer that because you know people want to hear it. It gives people time to jump on, but don't wait around for people. They'll watch it in the playback. Most people watch playback, not live.